Okay. Tequila shots, right? That's a good one, Diane. That would make the table much better. Sorry, Carol. I don't drink.
Well, shall we get started? Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a terrific summer. As is our sort of past policy, first of all, welcome to Leslie. Leslie, thank you for joining us. She's our ASL interpreter. Thank you very much. And in the interest of those people who may be watching us on YouTube, I'd just like to remind people that if you can keep our sidebar discussions to an absolute minimum, that would be wonderful. And if we could just go around the table and introduce each other again. I know we know who we are, but it's been a long summer. It's for the benefit of others who are watching. Thank you. So Carrie, could you start?
Carrie Tuckett, deafblind intervener.
And have your part.
Real Bonte, Director of the Development Center.
Carol Bagman, an Osmond committee member.
Sandra Hollingsworth, City Councilor for Ward 1.
Diane Morale, accessibility coordinator for the city.
Don McConnell.
Chair.
Chair. Okay.
Lisa Vezo-Allen, City Council.
Lynn Sharpenberg, committee member.
Yeah, Harry Oakworth.
Awesome. City Planning.
And Dorothy Valley is going to be joining us in a few minutes. He did say, however, let's go ahead without him. That's fine. Can we have has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes of our last meeting, which, given that we take the summers off, dates back to June 12th? Are there any questions or concerns with those minutes?
I got a question.
Go ahead, Carol.
So when it was sent to us by, minutes was sent to us by email? And then it was sent again? Is that the minute? No, that was the agenda.
Did I send it twice?
Yeah, so the second time, it was just very basic, but the first time was broken down into more detail. And I read both of them, but when I read the second one, I'm thinking, well, maybe I read the first one wrong, and I had to go back and because I get lots of emails. I had to go back quite a ways to find it.
Okay.
It was, I think you wrote a draft agenda or something.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. That was the first one when, before I sent out the official agenda. I sent it to you because I know every month I always ask, are there any additional items for the agenda?
Right.
And I thought, well, how would you know to ask for an item if you didn't know what was already on the agenda? So that was my first, like, these are the things that I think will be on the agenda.
Right.
And then I send out the final agenda, which was the second one. So thank you for that reminder. I'd like to do that every month. When I ask you for agenda items, here's the draft agenda. Let me know if there's anything else you want to add on it.
Is that going out to everybody or just me?
No, to all committee members,
Yeah.
yes, all committee members, yes. There may be some changes with the agenda that goes out the following week, but when I send out all the meeting materials.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So thank you for bringing that up, Carol.
If we're all good with the minutes, are we good with the minutes? Questions, comments? We appear to be good with the minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes of our June 12th
We
meeting?
gotta think here for minutes. Okay, the agenda, there was some items on there that I wanted to discuss from our last meeting, which would be in the minutes, right?
Which
They,
should be in the minutes.
yes,
So if we're approving this, does that mean we approve it,
means we're approving the minutes as they are.
but not approving what's in them?
Yes,
Yes. Okay, well, I've got an issue with it,
Okay.
and it's the budget.
Okay, that's in the agenda.
That's in the agenda.
that's the agenda.
Yeah, okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Okay.
So we're looking for a mover and a seconder for the minutes. Diana, to move them, and Councilor Vezo-Allen has seconded it. Thank you very much. All in favor? Perfect, thank you very much. That was unanimous. We'll move along. As we are required to do, we have to ask if anyone has a declaration of a conflict of interest. Once again, a conflict of interest only occurs if you or a member of your immediate family has a financial interest in something that's being discussed. And I don't believe we've ever actually had a declaration of a conflict.
We did
We did?
with the Stratford, or the baseball thing, with Jordan.
Oh, with no rights, right, yes. So yes, that's right. Does anyone have a declaration of a conflict of interest on a matter on the agenda? Hearing none, we're gonna move right along. We're gonna switch to new business. And Diane, you have information for us on a new grant.
Yes, so enhancing access to spaces for everyone, otherwise known as the EASE grant, is a new grant from the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. So this is a provincial grant in the amount of $60,000. And I don't know when I've ever seen a grant that you don't need any matching funds. So this is one of those, which is great. So through what is the appropriate name now, Recreation and Culture, they decided they wanted to apply for grants for 2 of our outdoor pools. Because recently there was another request for some better accessibility at the Greco pool. So through an assessment that I did, quickly just identified some things. $60,000 when you're talking about a renovation doesn't go real far, but identifying some of the high priority areas. So a pool or a lift for the Greco pool was identified, and a ramp for the Manzo pool. The Manzo pool is a very shallow pool, so a ramp will work in that. Whereas it wouldn't work in the Greco pool because the ramp would have to be too long to accommodate for the depth. Improved barrier-free pathways, shaded rest areas, grass matting to provide some additional accessible paths, and communication boards and threshold ramps. So that application has been in. There was no requirement for a letter of support, so they went ahead and applied for this. So let's keep our fingers crossed. It doesn't improve all of the accessibility in both of those facilities, but it provides for some improved accessibility, which means that some people will then be able to go in and use the facilities a little easier. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and I'll keep you all updated on that.
Question through you, Chair.
Okay.
So this particular grant, you have applied for it from the accessibility city perspective?
No, Virginia applied for it.
Virginia,
Yes.
okay. And to your knowledge, can other areas apply? For example, the Old Stone House, they want to?
It's one per facility, so the city could only apply for one grant.
Because they're
Yes.
still very concerned about their pathway for
Yes.
accessibility, as you're aware of.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, and Virginia is part of the
Correct.
Heritage Committee, so I'm sure she's very aware of that as well.
okay,
Yes.
okay. Because they're very keen to do something about the paths.
Yes, yes, they need some TLC for sure.
Yeah, and some funding, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I agree, it is not accessible.
So, and for the record, it's definitely on the radar screen, for the historical site. Kathy Fisher, the curator, and the whole board is very concerned. And we just actually had a meeting today to say it's still on our radar, we're still working hard at trying to resolve it. Thank you, yeah, that's all.
So just to be absolutely clear, we don't actually have $60,000. What we have is an application for $60,000, correct?
That's correct, an application.
And hopefully, do we know when we're going to hear from them?
I don't know what the timeline for that is.
Okay.
I would imagine later this fall or early in the spring.
Earlier the better.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, when you applied for it then, you decided where it should go, like, did they have to know where it was gonna go when you applied? Or,
Well,
like, I'm sure there were many
oh, there
things
were many.
around the city, like, who
Absolutely.
chose?
It was-
That was the,
It was the people who
The list.
were applying for the funds. So Virginia is the parks, no, recreation and culture
Person.
manager, person, I'm not quite sure what the title is. So she was applying for the grant, and of all of the facilities that she has involvement in, those are the ones that were
and
identified.
it's her outfit that could apply for it, nobody else.
Oh, no, others could have applied for it, but nobody else either knew about it or expressed interest or were ambitious enough to apply for a grant. I'm not sure, So it's something that was available anywhere in the province, like many organizations could have applied for this.
Sandra, I'm just curious, with the Old Stone House, do they have a budget estimate as to what that would take to fix things up there?
For the path, they do, I can't remember the exact
Okay.
total cost right now,
But
but
they
it's
have a
very,
number. Kathy has a number.
yeah,
Extensive, I'm sure.
it is,
It's a lot of paths.
And they're also looking at, I think they spoke with you and the other group, about what materials best to use, and so they're costing out materials. As in like, do we continue on with wood, which I don't think is the best approach, so they're looking at other alternatives.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this ease grant? No, we're all good? I have to agree that 60,000, I'm looking at what they wanna do and $60,000 and I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. I mean, sorry, that's not very much money for what they want to do. The budget for that would be pretty good, I would think. So let's hope that goes well. That was the Ministry of,
Seniors and accessibility,
Mr. Cho.
that's right, this.
okay. Sorry.
Keeping
Moving on then, other business, with regards to our audible pedestrian signals. Dan, did you want to make any comments on that?
Sure, Chair, I have a few updates from our last meeting. If the committee's agreeable, I'll just go through what we discussed at the last meeting and kind of give you an update on everything.
That would be great.
Sure. Okay, so the first one we discussed was in the locations where there are more time set aside, like on the cleared section of the cycles, try to change that over to the walk time, so you have more time on that cycle where the walk symbol is present and the beeping and chirping is audible. That's kind of a moving target. We're still working towards that. It's relatively labor intensive to go out and figure out the timing for that and then set it aside. So that's still something we're working towards. Work to set the audible indications so they do not end on half a beep or a chirp. Once again, still underway. That has proven relatively difficult because it's all set on the timing in the cabinets. So they have to tweak it by a second and then see if the cycle ends on the full chirp or beep. So that's still underway. Queen and Pine, that's where the push buttons were on the wrong side of the poles. So that's due to happen this month. Trunk and Black, see if we can add some additional time to cross Trunk Road and improve pavement markings for the slip lane. So that one, we've made some minor tweaks to add some additional time to cross Trunk Road. The issue there is that those signals are all part of our signal performance measure system. So all the traffic signals along that section of Trunk Road communicate and adjust based on traffic volumes and pedestrian volumes. So it's not necessarily a set timing. So even if we do change it, it sometimes could bounce back to different cycle times. So we're kind of figuring out how to make that work so we do have that additional time to cross Trunk. And then Diane, we also looked into maybe you can provide a little bit of information on this as well about that slip lane. We had some communications with David Demers.
And Brenda Peacock.
along with our engineering team, so I think that one we're working with, we'll follow up with engineering and see if we're looking at any kind of solution there.
Yeah, and I think beyond that as well was the whole idea of the slip lane. So for everybody, when we have a turn lane, that someone can kind of go through, they have the yield signs and they're supposed to, by law, they're supposed to stop. And traffic is supposed to stop if there is a pedestrian crossing. But, in practice, that doesn't always happen the way it should. So slip lanes are particularly challenging. And so we consulted with CNIB, David Demers, as well as Brendan Peacock on slip lanes and what can we do in the city to make these areas safer for pedestrians. They had some suggestions, and we used that particular crossing because it is a very complex crossing. There's 2 islands and there's train tracks there. So we figured if we picked the most challenging intersection with a slip lane, we could possibly come up with some strategies to make all of them a little safer. So those ideas are still in the works, and that's, as Dan was speaking about.
John, what was the conclusion of what are they suggesting?
They had suggested a few things. A few of them were in relation to that specific one. There's a sidewalk that goes around the corner and then it just ends. And that's because there is no sidewalk on that side of the road. And what appeared that it just ended was not sidewalk. So that was one of the things in particular that I recall. Dan, do you remember some of the other things that were, I've got notes, but I didn't,
Yeah,
I didn't pull them for today.
some enhanced pavement markings, which, may or may not be effective, some additional signage, things like that. Nothing that was significant. I think we just, once we have a better look at it with our engineering team, I think that would kind of be, I think we might find something a little bit better through that. So yeah, it's a tough intersection, definitely. So we're looking into it still, and we'll just keep it on the list for now so it doesn't fall off.
And all slip lanes are particularly challenging because there is that first cross from the mainland, that I'll call it, to the island, where there's no audible signal, there's no stopped traffic, although the traffic is supposed to stop when there is pedestrian. It's very, very challenging. The most ideal situation would be to get rid of slip lanes. But I don't know if that's a reality for especially some of the heavy, large traffic that we have. So it just has to be looked at.
Dan, if I understood you and Diana correctly, you met with CNIB, right? And you said, what's your comments on this? Do you have any suggestions for us?
Yeah.
Is there an traffic consultant in the province who specializes in making crossings more accessible? Like, I'm wondering, we used to have SEMA on retainer. I don't know if we still do.
We do.
We do, okay. Like, do they have someone that could advise us? Or could they recommend somebody that could advise us? Like, this has got to be something that every municipality in the province is dealing with, right? This is kind of a big issue with a lot of people.
Especially Toronto too.
So the question becomes like, who's the best person that we can go to get an opinion that can say, here's the best way to do this in this case?
Yep, agreed. That's something we can do. We have some funds available for traffic consulting services, so we'll reach out to our engineering team to follow us.
And even if SEMA doesn't have anybody that specializes in that, I'd be curious to see who they recommend.
If there's any.
Yeah, like, let's deal with the best folks here. Carrie, go ahead.
Doesn't the problem extend past that slip lane? Because if they cross it and they go down the sidewalk then ends.
No.
Is that right?
No, what appears from Google Maps that the sidewalk continues around the corner and then it ends. It's not actually the sidewalk. I forget what it was. It was a very narrow I think it was a very narrow strip of pavement, which was not intended for a walking path. It was just to keep the grass from growing at that area.
So
The walk actually ends at the crossing over to
we
the
would
island.
cross the slip line because there's no existing paved path on the other
No.
side.
No, that's right.
And that would be nice to have a signage there that, that if you cross this, there are no clear
Yeah.
paved paths for
Yeah.
accessibility.
But it's not a paved, like it's
No, I
it's
know,
about
that's
a foot
what we
wide.
need to know, instead of crossing it and worrying about crossing it.
Okay, I understand what
Do
you're
you know what I
saying. Yeah.
mean?
So, when you do cross, so this would be the west side of Black Road now, crossing the slip lane. There is a walkway through private property that connects to like the commercials area there. So like the Reliance Timber Mart and all the additional stores behind. So that's what you're basically crossing.
There's no
There's
perfect,
no-
I guess, really, eh?
And there's no defined crossing, I'm thinking there's no painted lines on the street at that point.
At the slip lane,
Yeah.
there's a few lines, one's for the rail crossing and then the other one would be like just the crosswalk marks.
Oh, they do have crosswalk marks there, okay. Other questions?
Okay, I'll continue on. McNabb and Willow, this was to see if we could add additional time to cross McNabb Street. As we're looking into that, we're probably gonna need an upgrade to the UPS there, it's dated and it might need some work. And then one of the other issues with that intersection was when trying to cross McNabb on the east side of the road, you would have a no walk symbol because the southbound left turn from Willow onto McNabb had the advanced arrow. But then on the west side of the intersection, the walk symbol with the audible was activated. So that was confusing for those using that intersection. So we reached out to our supplier, Econolite, and that is a common operation of EPS units at larger intersections, because typically those that would be standing on the east side, the road would be wide enough where they wouldn't hear the beach of the troops for the to signify on the east side for this instance, the west side. So they're looking to see if, like, Econolite for us is looking to see if there's a better solution to that, or do we just end it completely, which would of course affect the crossing times now, because the pedestrians on the west side of the intersection will just be waiting for the advanced arrow to end for those southbound turns onto the map. I hope that makes sense, like talking in a million directions.
So which intersection was this now? Okay, so when you're coming down in summer, when you're coming down Willow and you want to cross over to get to the Y basically. There's pedestrian signals on both the east and west sides of that intersection.
Yeah.
And the issue is there's an advanced left turn lane, vehicles coming down.
Yes. So if you wanna allow the people on the west side of Willow to cross McNabb while the advanced arrow is activated,
Which, yeah,
which would be
would
efficient
be fine.
and provide those pedestrians more time, it's causing confusion to those on the east side of the intersection, because those with vision loss disabilities are hearing the beeping and the chirping because it's a narrow.
Okay, thank you, now I understand, yeah. And you don't want those people walking across because of the traffic at that point.
Exactly, they don't have the right of way at that time.
Yeah.
Even though the other side of the road would have the right of way.
Any thoughts about just putting the pedestrian signals on one side? They do it at Second Line and Pine.
You have people leaving the confectionery store to cross.
Yeah, they'd have to cross twice, they'd have to cross Willow and then cross to that.
There's
That's
been
why
so
we need
many
an
people,
expert.
yeah, so many people have been hit at that intersection. I believe all.
So that's where we're working with the supplier to see if they have any ideas for these particular instances where you have narrow road. Okay, that's nice. So this may turn out to be a complete rebuild, so stay tuned there. Wellington Street and St. George's, this was adding time to cross St. George's, that's completed. Second line in Cora, so this was the issue, with the stop bars being so close to the crossing there. We're going to, so every winter, our engineering team kind of reviews and updates all of the intersection diagrams, all paint diagrams. So they're gonna have them update this intersection during the winter months, which also gives us one season for this existing stop bars, the second line Cora Road to wear down and no longer be there, so we didn't have to mill them out, so that would be a project for this spring. And finally, second line in Pine, so this is adding additional time to cross there. So there's a few that I can knock off this list, but there are still some that I have to, I'm gonna report on again in the future when we have more progress. And we're also going to be doing the fall inspections between the end of this month and October. So I may have an update at the October meeting or the November meeting for the inspections.
Any other questions,
Comments?
comments? Go ahead.
Yeah. I tapped it in here, after the meeting, our last meeting, and I asked him to, do the grass on Sackville in second line. And he was able to not only do the grass, but he was able to put pavement so that people are in their wheelchairs, they're not having to drive off the sidewalk just to press the button. So Dan said, well, how would you like cement? And I thought, okay, whatever we can do, you know, and a few weeks ago, I got a call from Dan and Dan sent me 3 pictures, so we have one at Sackville in second line, and one at the Market Square Mall, that end where he's put a patch of cement so that if somebody goes up to the actuator, they're not tipping the wheelchair.
Going into mud. Yes.
Yes.
And it really looks nice.
And I do want to comment on my corner, Oakwood and Poplar. Fantastic. Grass oak with the pavement there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice
it
piece
looks-
there, really extra.
Yeah, and when I'm trimming that corner, I don't have to worry about tripping. The only thing now is that building right there on the corner, I gotta watch out for all those pigeons that are inside that thing, because that roof is right at the sidewalk, and the last 2 months, pieces have been falling, so now I gotta kind of walk. It might have happened to the workers. But it looks good, but there is one corner that similar situation is Bruce and Bay. Okay, so when you get to the lights, you're at the old railway station before you cross. Okay, so you gotta go right to push the button to cross over Bay. That button, when you push it, the grass, the sidewalk is cut out. So you push it and then you walk towards there, but you're tripping over the sidewalk into the grass and over the sidewalk again. If that pavement was put there, it'd be great.
Sure. Diane, can you please put the word
Yes. Yes, that'd be smart. I may have to chat with you just to make sure I get the details correct, Carol.
It's
Bruce and Bay,
Yeah.
pavement on the which
on
corner?
the northwest corner, the corner where the gardens is.
Okay.
You'll see it as soon as you go to that button, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, perfect, thank you,
I
Carol.
don't know if we will get to it before winter, because when we do this kind of work, we have to submit for utility locates, because we have to actually do a little bit of excavation there. And they haven't been coming in quickly. So if we can, we will. And thanks, Derek, for the comments, we appreciate that.
And Dan, I guess the obvious question then is when it snows, I mean, I saw the pictures, that was really great. Did you guys go out and paved around it so that it now works. You can walk right up or you can wheel right up and hit the button. But what happens in the winter? Do we use sidewalk plows or do we send somebody out there by hand?
Yeah, kind of both.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get as much as we can with the sidewalk machine, and then we have crews that go and they'll sand it and,
So this is still gonna work in February?
yes.
Does anything work well in February?
Oh, no. Okay.
It looks good now, the state in mascara, but as soon as we all know that there's gonna be chunks in it, and it's not the city's fault, it's just, they have to be clean, and they have these machines that they have to clean with, and
Everybody does the best they can.
they're not nice to chunks of pavement.
Yeah, that, you're 100% right, and this kind of, I guess, globally here, if there are any issues with any of the infrastructure, please call them in to Public Works. There's a lot of ground to cover across the community, so extra eyes on these kind of things definitely.
Okay. Anything else on our repair update? Everybody's good? Thank you very much, Dan. You're gonna have to explain this next one to me because we have an auto pedestrian signal standard policy update. So we now have a standard policy, or we're working on a standard policy?
Yes, we are, that came about, I believe you requested that at our June meeting. That
Yes.
we draft an APS standard policy. What is the city's policy on how the APS are managed, how are they maintained? What is our minimum standard? So, my summer student and I and Dan met, and we talked about some of the potential information that could go into this. Emma and I worked on a draft. I'll be honest, we were not very successful, not having some of the technical experience that Dan knows. But we tried to put together as much information as we could, and then we sent it over to Dan. And Dan has worked on it, but I understand it's a work in progress.
Yeah, thanks. Work in progress still. We're getting there. I think I'll be in a pretty good position to have a draft back to internal staff for review relatively, hopefully by the end of this month, and then depending on some of the comments, maybe October, November meeting.
Thanks very much, but this takes me back to something that has bothered me for a long time, and it's not anything that you guys are doing. It's the fact that all the municipalities in the province are dealing with the same issues, and they're all out there trying to figure out what to do. And we do have a provincial accessibility directive, we have an office of the accessibility director. But do those people provide any advice to municipalities? And I can see, Dan shaking her head, no, they don't. So it leaves every municipality, of which there's 400 and some odd in the province of Ontario, out there trying to figure this out.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, is there no organization out there that can put pressure on the province to create a set of standards? Like I look at the standards that, the Ontario Traffic Manual standards, they have great details on the right way to do a whole bunch of different stuff, including some things on accessibility in there, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
But, it seems that every time something comes up, every municipality goes through the same efforts to try and figure out what do we do about this. And I'm wondering if there's some way we can encourage the minister, whoever that might be, of seniors and accessibility.
Yes.
To do something about this. Like that there's no common even information base out there. There's no library. Here's what other people have done really well.
Yeah.
Because we could all copy from each other because that's what municipalities do. At least that's what planners in municipalities do. They all copy from each other, right? Nobody's had an original thought. But that's not true. That is me being sarcastic.
Well,
But it seems to me that if you have an office of the accessibility director, they should be able to provide information back to people who are trying to make things better.
I can tell you that the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility is one of the very smallest ministries out there. they have the smallest amount of staff.
They do.
And what do you do with that?
Yeah, I understand that, I'm just wondering if there's any way that like through AMO or something, and I turn to our counselors on this.
Yeah, I can
That you
ask.
can bring pressure to bear.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like it's a totally waste of staff time and money that they have 400 municipalities all trying to figure out the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
And one of the biggest benefits, Mr. Chair, is it builds consistency across the province.
that too.
And that's why, you know, the Ontario traffic manual is so successful, because, you know, a traffic system in Sarnia is the same in Sudbury, is the same in Sault Ste. Marie. So if we could have that across the province, that'd be very beneficial.
And it's also safer.
Yeah.
Everybody's used to the same system, the insurance companies know it, everybody knows it, we're good, we're dealing with the best, and if somebody comes up with a bright idea, they revise it. Okay, that was my little rant for the day, I promise not to rant anymore. Moving right along, unless somebody else wants to add to that particular rant.
I'm messaging you my number as well.
Okay, at our last meeting, we talked about standardized and improved civic address signage for Queen Street. And Diane, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
Yes, so, actually, I apologize because I'm going to ask Samir to open up the webpage. And it's Google Maps picture of downtown. So when I started thinking about what the signage could look like, the civic address signage could look like, it had to be something very simple, using very plain numbers, and something that had good contrast. And then I looked at downtown and I thought, well, where are we putting these signs? Where would they be? So there is, we have Google Maps on Queen Street here, and it's showing Main Street Cafe, Stephanie's Joy, and it's an older one, Ivory Lane, I'm not even sure what's there now. But just at a glance, there's very little front facing of the business there. Everything seems to be recessed inside, so what is that called? It's is it a no, it's not a vestibule, it's whatever it is. The doors are recessed in about 4 feet to 6 feet. Most of the storefronts are windows. There is a little bit of real estate between buildings, but if we were to put a number on some of those posts or the spaces in between, which building does it belong to? Would it have an arrow going to one side or to the other? Which makes it a visual reference again, you know, an arrow pointing a certain way. So then I thought, well, it's probably going to be something that's stuck onto a window, some kind of a cling or a sticker, or more recently I was thinking of you know, the wraps that are on buses, so that on the outside of the bus, it has some kind of advertising. But when you're on the inside of the bus, it's perforated so you can see through it and you can see what's around you. So I thought perhaps it would be some kind of a sticker with that perforation so that people coming out can see that there's someone in front of the door and the door doesn't open and slam on them. So, like I just used an 8.5 by 11, which was the signs here, and I'll pass this around for anyone who didn't get a chance to see it on the computer. Something like that is probably in the area of about $25 at that size. I don't know if larger is better. But this being a first draft, you know, I thought I'd bring it back. And then I thought maybe it would be a frosted background, that's why when I set out, it was impossible to show on a computer something that's frosted, slightly see-through, but there were various different options for it.
Question to the chair, Diane, is there any way that we can get away from the white? And that,
What would you like to see, Derek?
maybe like green or something?
Usually green and red are the first, are a common color that people have a color blindness to.
Okay,
So, what, besides, sorry, did you say green?
yeah,
What else would you suggest?
well, no, cause I'm thinking that maybe we use the green ones for a school crossing. I know these are addresses, but they're the, it's so you can see the address better.
I can't see it. Most people with vision loss cannot see green.
Okay,
I think it's actually, it's almost a fluorescent yellow. I know what he's talking about, the school signs when you're driving down the street, and there's a school crossing ahead.
Oh, the yellow with the
It's-
black,
It's yellow and black, yeah.
okay.
I know that's not.
so it's not a green, it's basically yellow, but it looks yellowish.
Your question really, Derek, is there a better color combination than black and white that would help people see them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
Fluorescent, no, see-through, no, transparent, no, solid colors, yes, black and white. Or white and black.
I'm with you on that,
Black and white have the best contrast.
absolutely.
It's not a coloring book, it's a address that we're looking for, and we don't wanna have to be trying to figure out what is that, that's the stand.
Right. What do you think about the size and the fact that a lot of the businesses downtown are the glass fronts? What are your thoughts on that? Happy to have your feedback.
I would prefer something a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Want to see that? Yeah.
Or what's that?
Hold it towards me.
But I find that size is doable, but there's nothing else if we have to go with our face in it. We can
Yeah.
still find it to see it.
See, something like that, I don't know. Can the numbers be made bigger?
They could be.
Like the size is good, but the numbers will fit, make them bigger?
We could, then we'd have to make the sign a little larger, of course. Can you point with your finger, how big would you like to see the numbers? The whole height of the page?
I can mark it with a pen.
Yeah, that's.
I'd say
that would be
probably
great.
where my thumbs are.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll enlarge everything.
Yeah.
We could see what it looks like larger, but if you get it too large, the owners of the stores are gonna have maybe a problem with it being in their face like that and wanna sabotage.
Right, and there is a balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And some owners may not want a signage on their door or on their window or
Yeah,
so I guess I'm a little,
but it should be made mandatory to have a sign with a number that's visible for everyone.
If I can't find the address, I'm not going shopping there.
Well, that's true, that's exactly it. And when we've driven up and down the street and around the block and down again, because we can't find the number or a proper, some of the businesses have changed and not changed their business name yet. And frustrating, especially with somebody that's impatient. Like, there were times around the block, it was not a happy camper.
But I think with those markers here, I think that would be a good size.
okay, I'll take a look, I'll create this larger and see what overall size that would make this. And I can bring that back to the committee at the next one. I'm not sure about how to go about implementing or offering this. And this is, this would be for a a sticker for a glass area. If for other signs that would be on the building itself, I have no idea for costs for something that's durable, almost vandal proof. I have no idea for costs for that.
Well, if it's on a window, probably put it on the inside of the window.
Yes, but I'm talking about on the building for those that don't have an appropriate place on their glass, or they don't want something on their glass.
Diana, go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm wondering then, like being on the island, we have to have a number for emergency services. How do the police and fire department find these places? Other than that they already know it's the old Irene's or the whatever. Like there, it is, you have to have that sign.
Canada Post requires it or they won't deliver mail. If you don't have a sign like civic address on your building. But I think the issue here is that we're
But
looking to
emergency services,
we're looking to standardize things a bit. Make it a little easier for people and you know,
yeah,
even on the size of the lettering and the colors of the lettering.
Right.
Whether or not there's a braille component to this or some kind of a tactile kind of component to this. And you know, put them as close as we can to keeping in a consistent location, you know, just to one side of the door or the other. But I think we need to do some more work on that because, you know, whoever mentioned it was right. The business community has to kind of go along with this. And I know as of, I think it's the 1st of January, the city is taking over the Downtown Association, which gives us some direct access to the business community there. It's almost as if we need to sell this a little bit. It's, you know, as if we need to spend some time and say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? Let's put some words together to describe this, and let's say, here's kind of a one possible way that we could go. And put that in front of, there will be a board of some sort representing the Downtown Association, and they're well connected. You know, and see, because we're gonna have to sell this. I don't think we can just go out and yell at people and tell them we have to do this.
so could we not get the fire department, ask them what their views are on?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then they could be on our side, and the police on our side,
Yeah,
as to the importance.
paramedics.
Paramedics, it is so important that otherwise they're racing around too, and do you know where, and is it up here?
Even where you put the signage, if you want, I noticed a lot of these, you know, Diane pointed out the recessed back.
Exactly.
But they tend to be dark.
Yeah.
You know, you need to have this someplace where it's lit.
If it's, yeah.
Maybe the
If it's
signage is lit,
recessed,
but
though,
there's streetlights or something, so that people walking by can see
But that's why I think the black and white would show
better.
better if it is on a recessed. And you'd know where to look. Even that's a help. Because if it's here, it's there, it's.
Carrie, go ahead.
Well, along with what Diane just said, I was gonna suggest it to be on the door
Yeah.
of the place and not to the left or to the right. Because even if you just have a little bit of vision in the center, so you lost your peripheral, you're looking, you see the sign up ahead, but when you look down, you're looking for a door. But I noticed there were 2 glass doors within one of the lofts.
Yeah.
Well, which one is the right one? You're gonna go to the door.
Yeah.
And hopefully the number's there on the door. I think it'd be easier for people to identify the right door.
And it could be
Once you go into the recessed area and you can no longer see the sign above.
Sounds like.
Other thoughts?
I just wanted to say that, when I say that it should be better, green, I'm not trying to make anybody upset. I'm just giving you my personal opinion, and I don't need to make anybody upset. So that,
I don't think you upset anyone.
Not at all.
it's just hard because we all have different needs. That's why we have this group, right? So.
I have a thought.
I'm looking at a picture of the
It
downtown.
happens once in a while, okay? But I think we need a small group of people to kind of work on this and put the rationale behind this and do a little bit of work as to what is it that we're going to actually ask people to do. And my apologies to Carol as the chair of the site plan review committee, but I think the site plan review committee would be a good spot for that to rest. What do you think about that, Carol?
I think it'd be a good idea.
That's good because everybody who's not on the site plan committee now is nodding their head, yes, that's good.
Well, I like the way the island is, there is no asking, it is, that's it, you do it.
But there has to be an or else.
Or else you get charged, you know, we could work on that.
But do the businesses like downtown, like in Richards, have? So I'm trying to, like,
They do. They have to, it's, otherwise it's illegal.
Yeah. So I'm just doing a review, I'm showing Dawn, like there's some buildings that have like the large numbers already above the doors.
Mhm.
But I think the difficulty, like we've said, is like all the buildings are so different. And some of them do have the garage doors that go down at night too. So then what does that entail as well, right?
Some are gold on black, and at certain times of the day you cannot see it. And then all of a sudden you see it and you go like, when did that get there?
There's 3 addresses.
Yeah.
So like the building that we're in, there's 3 addresses and it's all recessed, but we all have large numbers above the door.
Good.
So, but you wouldn't see the addresses unless you went in, because that's the way the door is, but that's the way the building is.
Consistency, they all have to be the same.
Yeah. So we're all looking in the same area, we know where to focus.
They're all the same,
Mhm.
somewhere, somewhere. They're all the same.
Consistency.
Did
So
we
are
just-
these the principles, then we'll work on those
Yeah.
principles of what we believe it should look like?
Okay, we can even print some up and we can go downtown and just take them to the windows and stand there and I'll stand there with a clipboard and I'll ask everyone's opinion as they walk by.
Sure, we can do some tests, I'm sure.
So are we in agreement, we just assign this to the site plan review committee? Everybody's good with that? Perfect, thank you. It's 5 to 3, did we want to take a little break or do we want to just power through? What do people think?
Power through.
We're gonna power through?
Yeah.
Okay. Which brings us up to our bare removal updates. And Diane, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yeah, when I was looking at the barrier removal updates, it occurred to me that the best way to do this is to use our existing, basically what's in the accessibility plan, the things that we said we were going to be spending money on, and list them here and then report on the status. This is not a reflection of what is coming up next year in the next year's plan. This is for this year, and this is where we're at with these items that were on the accessibility plan. So the VPR, we had a commitment of $20,000 to, and that was sent over to the Innovation Center. The VPR, although they no longer have a dedicated staff person on it, the VPR is continuing, and updates are being conducted by staff of the Innovation Center. Curb cuts,
If we have any questions, when do you want us to stop you?
oh, on the item.
Okay, stop.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes.
Diane, did we get a report from the Innovation Center as to how many new unique individuals they have added to the VPR?
We do not. I can ask for that.
I think that would be a reasonable request. We're giving an organization $20,000 to fulfill a service. I think we should have a report on that service.
Very
I
good.
think Carol was going the same route that I was, I can tell.
Who said they can have 20,000? Who picked that number?
That was actually council.
Okay,
City council entered into an agreement when that was set up with the Innovation Center, and it's $20,000 a year to maintain it. That was the deal. And then council said, and the money's coming from the accessibility committee. Did I get that right?
okay, so
Years ago,
Yeah, it was years ago, that's
year
right.
before my time,
18-ish years
Yeah.
ago.
before my time.
You were much younger then, yes.
Okay, so $20,000 for DPR. Vulnerable persons registry, vulnerable. That means people with disabilities, right?
That's
Or
correct.
seniors. That means all disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$20,000. I will not approve that. I will not vote for that. I'd be willing to give them 10,000, take 10,000 for the APSs, okay? But I'll tell you what, they haven't done anything in 3 years. 3 years! I was on the phone with her the other day, 3 years. You're supposed to update the files every 6 months. I've got one in 3 years. I got one the other day. First time in 3 years, okay? And I called her Monday. Apparently she got other calls last week. Now remember, VPR Vulnerable Persons Registry. It says so, why? I got a letter from you guys. What does it say? I got vision loss. What does it say? Oh, it's to update our files. I says, well, how often do you do that? Well, we're supposed to do it every 6 months, but we haven't done it in 3 years, you know, we've got 1,000 people. I says, so every 6 months? She says, yeah, but you know, it's not gonna be 6 months, it'll probably be at least 8 months before we remove it again. Really? So this is for vulnerable persons, people, VPR. Now, you mailed this to us. I got vision loss. I cannot read this. Okay, there's 607 people in Sault Ste. Marie area that have vision loss, that are registered with vision loss. None of them, most of them cannot read it. So this thing is sitting in the mailbox. It sat on my table for a week before I realized what it was. Okay? So it says, why didn't you call me? I got vision loss. You're supposed to call for the update. Well, they mailed them out, he says, but I've got vision loss. She says, well, it's easier this way. I says, excuse me, it's easier this way? I says, I've got vision loss. You're supposed to update this every 6 months. Oh, well, it probably won't be until 8 months. I says, I've got vision loss. You're supposed to be calling. This piece of paper means nothing to me and nothing to anybody with vision loss. And all she could say is, well, we figured it was the easiest way. I says, well,
For who?
on this paper, okay, this is my registration form, update my information. I says, you go on to your paper there and go down a little bit where it says how to contact that person. You got 2 spots. One is contact by phone and the other one is contact by internet email. What do I have checked off? I have checked off phone. Well, we just thought it'd be easier this way. Well, excuse me, I think it'd be easier this way if we only give you $10,000. And I will not approve I will not vote $20,000 because if they're gonna look at people, vulnerable people, and put people with vision loss back at the bottom of the list again, okay, then you know what? I think I'll just do it the easy way too. It's in writing, phone. So they're not doing their job. Yeah, they've got 1,000 people and they don't have time. It's just easier that they mail it. Well, you know what? What happens if there's an emergency out there? 1,000 people really isn't that much. You've got a whole year to contact those 1,000 people. What happens if there's an emergency? Are you gonna contact me? How did I even fill this out? Why are these guys getting money from us?
Carol, I think you made a really good point, okay? And I think part of the issue may be, and I don't disagree with anything you said, nothing, but we can't just automatically say, no, we're only gonna give you 10,000.
I wouldn't give them anything.
We didn't enter into that contract, that was council. So we need to kind of sit down and I think we need to have a chat with the CAO about who is responsible for making sure the innovation center is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and what is a fair price for that work.
Certainly not $20,000 a quarter of our budget.
But again, this group didn't get to vote that we were gonna do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the issues that you raised are bang on, and I think we need to have a discussion with the CAO as to how he wants to handle this.
And I can even give you later the name of the person I talked to. And I wasn't the first one that brought this issue to them. So. I can look at my registration.
Any other comments? Cause we will, I mean, we need to talk to Peter and talk to Tom and see.
Cause I'm not gonna let that go 20,000, no way.
Samir, Peter has turned on the camera.
I would, Mr. Chair, if I could, I would just say that I share some of Carol's concerns.
Yeah.
And Diane and I have had a number of conversations about this, and from what we can tell, Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, and Dawn, you and I had a chat about this actually a couple of years ago, I believe, when we had a presentation. And I wasn't really keen on the direction that it was going at that time, but they have changed it. It seems like there was a lull for a while. They're back working on it, but I don't know that they're working to the degree that I think the program demands and that we expect out of the program. So I guess suffice to share, I think both Diane and I share some of the same concerns that you have, Carol.
I don't think you'll find anybody in this room that disagrees with you, Peter.
Yeah.
Peter, would you agree that the next step is to review this with the CAO and say, like, who's actually going to be responsible for this?
Yeah, let Diane and I will look. I'm not 100% sure of that. We certainly can. Dawn, your recollection is that we entered into a contract? Like I'm not aware of there being a contract here. But we'll look at that and get back to the group.
That would definitely be a Tom Baer question,
Yeah.
Peter, because I don't know as well, and I have concerns too, especially if we're not getting reports and deliverables, like how many unique individuals are you being registered and how many unique individuals are you updating annually? So.
And then we can say, what's a fair cost for that?
Yeah.
Because it may not be $20,000.
Yeah,
well, it's quite a bit more than that.
Yeah, I'm just on their online registry and it says, cause you can do it online. And the last one is 6-month update preferences. So how do you want your updates done every 6 months?
And the options, does it say options online?
Yeah. I got that in the mail last week. And I talked
It's
to
not letting
Renee.
me open it. I have to hit continue to go through. I'll just hit continue. Oh, no, it's not, I have to do the whole thing.
Okay. On the form that Carol just passed to me, choose one of the following update methods. It says phone, mail, online, so they must have your email address for this, and VPR coordinator's office. I don't know what that means. Is the other one?
In person.
Go in person, which I don't know anybody who would do that. But thank you, Carol. Yeah.
Okay. Comment to this conversation. Because I'm in support of housing units, okay, I can't sign up for the BPR because I'm under Ontario Rich Tax. So if we're gonna remove 20,000, it doesn't matter if I have March 24/7 support, I should be able to access it.
Yeah.
Right, you have.
The reasoning behind that is that that specific address is already registered, so they don't need individual registrants in the
But
units.
it's not fair.
They have, but in the event of an emergency that affects your address, your building has already been identified. Same as the hospital, same as the long-term cares, Same as other supported living units, there's one on Chapel for seniors that have supported living. There's a few different addresses in town that have been identified.
The problem is we're not identifying what individual has what, disability that needs to be addressed and how, depending on what the emergency is, right?
Yes.
Like, that's the whole
At March
point of it.
at the March of Dimes building though, it's people with physical disabilities.
Right, but at Chapel, for example, I have someone who is deaf and blind and uses ASL only, so then they would try to help him using voice. You know, like, he wouldn't be individually identified, which is kind of the whole purpose of this
Yeah.
person's registry. So I'm not saying,
Okay.
I just something we should think about. Yes, identify the whole building, but maybe highlight specific special needs that are important in the event of
Yes.
emergency.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair, just a comment. Definitely, it sounds like we all agree that this is serious. Should be top priority for the Innovation Center. And so I guess my first question is, when you speak with Tom there, is there an MOU? And where does it stand in the MOU as one of the priorities? It should be like unexcusable. It should be always dealt with every 6 months out of all the responsibilities. So if there's an MOU, if there's a contract, it should be highlighted, as we mentioned. But take it one step further. If it is every 6 months, oh, I lost my train of thought. If it's every 6 months and the MOU, then how can I say this? Anyway, I've lost my train of thought, unfortunately.
We'll pursue this.
But the cost too, to mail out 1,000 letters compared to the phone calls that most of them are requesting anyway. And then if it was done every 6 months, that's a
lot of
big
That's
cost,
a lot.
when most of them would prefer a phone call if they can hear on the phone.
And I guess my other question is, it's kind of going off topic, but what does the city do? Like, when there's gonna be a change in a neighborhood, you have to send out letters to people that are 150 feet away or 400 feet away from a new development. What does the city do? How do you know who can read a letter? Because right now, all our constituents get letters. So I guess what I'm trying to say is a whole process that has to be looked at across in City Hall, not just the Innovation Center. Yes, vulnerable persons is huge, it's critical, it's an emergency, absolutely, but we're also getting information about new developments or something that's going to change in the city. How do we make sure that the Carols are reading that letter that is going to impact her? So I think this is somewhat a bigger issue too, not just the most vulnerable person. That was my thought. What does the city do?
Refer to Diana, Mr. Chair, for this one.
Go ahead.
As planning's done most of the communications that way.
It's set out in the regulations as to what you have to do. That's where it came from. I'm not saying that it's correct, but that's why the city works in that fashion.
So maybe as an accessibility committee, we should put it as an action item to say over the next year or whatnot, we should look at other ways that we communicate with constituents that may have a disability. As one example. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
That's all.
Okay, well, we only have 8 more of these barrier removal items to go over.
Good thing we didn't take a break.
Yeah.
All right, so the next on our budget was the curb cuts. We have an annual $10,000 commitment. And from what I understand, $10,000 for curb cuts doesn't go so far these days. Concrete and construction is very expensive. And from what I recall, our contact at Public Works, not Dan, I'm pointing at Dan, but the gentleman who takes care of this traditionally does many more than are requested. When he's in the neighborhoods and he sees something that needs to be done, it just gets addressed. So typically there are more than these, but these were identified and I believe they have been done already, Dan, do we know that?
If they were done, they are scheduled for this year. That was presented to council and that's within our work schedule this year. They'll be pouring concrete right into October.
Okay, so the ones that were identified were 274 Lake Street. So these are the corners, the curb cuts.
Yeah.
107 Ontario Ave, 119 Ontario Ave, 64 Passmore Road, 110 Poplar Ave, and 27 Valhalla Place. So those were the curb cuts that were identified, and when I know that the season is over, I'll send an email over to, is it still Mike? Yes, I'll send an email over to Mike and find out what the final results are. He will probably have a few more added on the list. APS pedestrian crossing proximity sensors, we have had a $10,000 budget line for that. Because the APS right now, as many as could be done have been done or had APS installed, meaning, and what the city has done is that when crossings are being rebuilt, they will put that in to the whole crossing when they're digging up the pavement. So that $10,000 line hasn't been going to install APS anymore. It's been going to improve the existing stock. The crossing proximity sensors were the items that were built into the Metro Crossing and Metro Crossing on Northern Ave and on by the Auroras, that's Old Garden River Road, second line. That were the little countdown in the in the locator tone, so that when you approach the corner, you can hear the countdown. If the countdown's already going, you shouldn't be starting to cross, so that it would let you know. Derek has reported that those countdown proximity sensors are not very reliable.
No.
So I think they maybe not worked as often as they have worked. So anyways, that is on hold. That amount will go into our reserves this year. Parks, swings and instruments, in this last budget as well, we had a $10,000 commitment to improving accessible swings and musical instruments in our playgrounds, along with accessible outdoor seating, a $10,000 commitment to putting in benches at various different places, either identified by the committee or identified through other places through the city. So the both the parks, swings and instruments, and the accessible outdoor seating will be going to Manzo. The Manzo Park playground update. The grant was successful, so there will be a playground, an updated accessible playground there. And so the musical instruments and the benches will be used to complement that playground. Then we go on to captioning city council, which was a $6,000 budget commitment. We have not used that since that's been in place, because with the advent of COVID coming on, we all had to use technology, and the technology for the captioning that's built into both Zoom and YouTube is a fairly good quality. It's not perfect, especially in sounds with our office. I'm sure Leslie can attest to, it's difficult. But it's quite adequate. So that amount will not be used, and it's going to be going into our reserves again. Video remote interpreting or quick access interpreting, that was implemented at City Hall at the beginning of this year. It has not been used yet. CHS was on strike for a very long time. Carrie will agree, it was a very long time. And we had, before the strike occurred, we had arranged to have Giselle, who is our ASL, what is Giselle?
That's literacy instructor
Thank you.
and past ASL teacher.
Yes, so she is our liaison with the deaf community. She had arranged a meeting to meet with the deaf community to introduce the technology. People could touch it, feel it, see it in work. But then the strike happened, so everything has been on hold since. I got a hold of Giselle a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking to move forward with that again. Hopefully it will be used before the year is out. But we'll see what the time frame for that is. So right now, although we have $5,000 budgeted for it, we've only spent $50 a month on it. It's $50 a month for the subscription fee, and then it's a per use cost. So we haven't had the per use costs. So a lot of that will be ending up going into reserves as well.
And was there a staff training component to that?
There was for reception staff.
And was that done?
Yes, yes. John Rhodes Community Center, $2,000 commitment for, that was mainly for pool, but also for sledge updates or repairs and such. We did quite a bit of repairs to the sledges last year, and they're still in very good shape this year. I think we purchased a couple of high backs for some of the sledges that were identified as a need for people to participate. So a small cost for that. And batteries for the lift for sledge were replaced. And I think that's in the area of about maybe $1,000 for that. So some of that funds will end up going into reserves as well. And then our contingency amount of $12,000. From that, I think it was in May, we had committed $5,000 from the contingency should the Manzo Park upgrades application be successful, and it was successful. So $5,000 from that will be used. And then we've got the Queen Street civic address signs potentially coming out of that.
And can I ask, what happened to the Baseball Association and their plans? I know that we had made a commitment, but it was contingent on them being successful with another grant.
Yes, they have applied for a couple of grants. They have not been successful with those grants. I think there's been some renewed talks with the Baseball Association recently, because they held a very, very highly successful tournament just recently here. The Sioux puts on an excellent tournament from what I understand, and our facilities are amazing. So there is some renewed talks. So far, this reserves, that amount is still in committed reserves, pending if they're able to make things work. So that is not included in our next amount, which is the uncommitted reserves we have right now of $61,388.
Okay.
There will be some, with funds going into that, we'll have to look at where that leaves us in the future. I would still like to get some accessible document training done for the city. So that may be using up some of our reserves in the future, but once I have a plan for that, I'll come back to the committee.
Question to you, through to Peter. We talked a while back about doing road work to Northern Avenue. Is it going to be on this year's budget plan for 2026?
Peter, are you able to speak to any of that? Peter may have stepped out though.
That may be a Dan question.
Yeah, through sure, Derek, let me get back to you on that for certain.
Okay, that's what I meant, I'm sorry, I meant Dan. Alright, so I correct myself.
No problem, let me confirm that with our engineering team.
Okay,
That there was some design work underway, I just don't know where it's fitting within the capital program off the top of my head.
Okay, so if we could at least get that back in to budget and see where we're at.
And to clarify, that won't be coming from the barrier removal budget because we just don't have enough money.
No, I know that, but we're saying that we're going to recommend to council to do the changes. And I just didn't want to, because the last time we talked, it was in December that you guys do all the yearly planning for the next year.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure that it's on the planning stages for next year.
Thanks, Derek.
I'm emailing, my one colleague in engineering, and I might get an answer back before the end of the week.
Okay.
All right, and then one other update, which wasn't part of our plan, but we've talked about quite a bit, is the John Rhodes Community Center grant for the bleachers. So that grant was approved, I'm sure I brought that forward to the committee. I'm working with purchasing as well as vendors to get updated quotes and updated designs, so that will be moving forward. It's uncertain though, the grant has quite a long time frame. I think it's got till 2028 or something like that. It's unclear if the bleachers will be installed during this year or if it will be installed during next year. It just depends how long the install will be and whether or not that will impact any operations going on at the arena. So if not this winter, it should be done before the end of next summer.
Could we not tell them that we wanna do it this summer so that we're not disrupting things in the arena?
We certainly could, Derek, but my thought process is if we can get it done sooner, people can enjoy the games a little bit through this winter.
Because there is an off season, so we should do it on the off season.
Yes, and that may end up being the case. I'm just not sure how that's gonna fall yet.
Okay, I'm just clarifying.
And that is our barrier removal updates.
Any other questions on that? Comments?
I got a comment, not for anything like that, just something I wanted to state.
Go ahead.
So last city council, I want to thank Angela Caputo. It's 1 hour, 18 minutes into the YouTube, if anybody wants to go and see it, where she brought to the city council's attention that ATIP crosswalks can become an issue for people with vision loss. So now it's just a matter of time to wait to see if city council does the right thing, right? So I just wanted to thank her for bringing that to their attention.
The good news, on painted sidewalks, give them a year or two, they won't be there. No, they wear out, and they're expensive as
And then they got rated again.
Yeah, they do wear out.
Yeah. Thank you. We have one other matter on our agenda, which is our site plan subcommittee report. Carol, did you want to talk about that?
And so, the two, one was 65 Foster Drive, and this is the Sulak Tours. The design that we had was, it didn't show the storage and the serving area, so we need more detail on that. But what it does show is that there's a barrier on the east side, and we'd like to have one also on the west side because this is gonna change the path of travel for people with vision loss. Now on the east side, it looks like there's planters and a fence as a barrier. And we requested that the fence be lined up with the outside of the plants, plant containers, so that it's a straight line. Otherwise, we'd be walking there zigzagging in and out with our cane, right? And then, there's also a gazebo. And it looks like they have a couple of steps going into it. It should be built closer to the ground so that people with mobility devices can get on there. And closer to the ground, put a ramp on it, this way here they can access it, because it does get pretty hot, and that's the only place that there's shade. So, and then walking around it, always make sure that everything is cane detected, so that when you're going around it, because it is gonna be a different path of travel. The other one was 45 Social. This was at 117 Spring Street. And this was a one-time event with the possibility of maybe in the future having more events. So it would be in the back of the building outside. And with it being just a one-time event, we can't really have ropes and chains and stuff like this, but if it's gonna be something continuous, they need to have it accessible, they need a ramp to get in there, they need to put a sign at the front of the building to let people know that it's accessible through the back. And also, once again, a barrier for people with vision loss so they can edge their way through there. I think that was it.
Carol, just if we can back up a minute to the lock tours, the gazebo that they built there. I
Yeah,
was down there the other day, there is a ramp on one hand. So they built this gazebo and it has a little railing that goes all the way around with it with two openings. And the opening that would be towards Foster Drive has a ramp on it. And it looks like the ramp is just added because the wood's newer. So somebody was thinking, or they took your comment seriously. But the problem I have is the opening at the other end, which sort of faces the river, that goes into where I take it, eventually there's gonna be, they have this enclosed area that you described with little walls and planters and stuff. I take it that's for, a patio for people to sit. But the fall, there's no protection when you're in the gazebo between getting back down to the patio. Like there needs to be a step or something, or some warning that there's I'm not explaining this very well.
see, and I didn't go down there at all this summer around.
Yeah, I was just down there like the last couple of days. So there is a ramp, and you
Okay.
get up to the gazebo, but then to go back down into the patio, there's a drop of maybe 2 feet,
Oh, wow.
1.5 anyways, and whether you're sighted or not sighted or in a wheelchair or not, that's not a very good situation.
Wow.
Anyways, that was my,
Yeah, well,
the good news is there's a ramp on the other end.
that's
Yeah,
kind of scary.
it is.
I do have a comment for patios in general.
Go ahead.
I think we're at the end, right?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. So, now that Queen Street, I don't know, it's pretty well done. Patios, are they gonna be following certain guidelines or whatever? And every year it has to be this way, this way, this way?
They would have to follow the city's guidelines on patios, so the city's standards are pretty good on that. I'm not sure if Peter's still on or not, you can talk to him.
Okay, because, I didn't go downtown much at all this summer, but I did go down this last week or a week ago. Now, and it could be because of the construction, I'm not sure, but the construction was done on that side. So I thought the patios were not supposed to be on the sidewalk, I thought they were supposed to be on the boulevard.
I believe you're correct on that.
There's 3 that are on the sidewalk. There's three patios that are right on top of our beautiful sidewalk that we can follow in a straight line.
Peter, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll follow up, Carol. We'll follow up with the committee on that. So, yeah, the change is that on the new Queen Street, the new constructed part, there's now a dedicated concrete sidewalk that's right up against the building. It wasn't like that before. So I'll follow up with you on that to see if I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay,
Or with the committee, sorry.
yeah.
Thanks, Peter. And on that note, unless someone else has anything they'd like to bring up, we could adjourn the meeting. And Leslie, thank you very much for joining us. It's greatly appreciated. Always happy to see you. And we will see everyone next month. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. That's great.